Most common question I get is how can you tell the sexes apart of budgerigars? I've made a video about it before, but I'm going to go into more detail today with more video illustrations. You're at a pet store or you're going to a breeder to get a new bird, and by the time you're going to be able to purchase one, they're likely going to be over 6 weeks old through maturity. That is the most common situation you will find yourself in, and that's when you would want to identify the sexes, and it's going to be super easy. Forget everything you've heard about ceres and sexing while you're watching this video, and then let me know if what you've heard from me has confirmed your understanding or changed your mind, because a shocking number of people have it completely figured out wrong. The most common trope I hear is that males have blue cere and females have pink cere. That is completely wrong. Do not believe it. It is not that simple. Can males have pink cere? Absolutely. Juvenile males do have pink colored ceres. Do females have blue colored ceres? Absolutely. It's a different shade of the blue you will find in males. But females only have brown cere when they're adults, right? Yes and no. It is not that simple. So let's move on and watch this video, and we'll walk over here. We have a female. She's about 3 months old, and you can see that her cere has a very chalky texture, and majority of the area around her nostrils, they're very pale white, sky bluish, and the area around and below is lighter purple, pink, and it can be sometimes sky blue. Over here we have an older female. She's a little over a year old, and you can see that her cere is very white around the nostrils with hint of sky blue closer to the beak. And this is what confuses a lot of people. People assume that only males have blue colored cere, but that is not true at all. Females have a very sky blue undertone on their cere, but it's not uniform blue, and it's not a royal, dark, rich blue. This is the blue you're looking for in females who are not hormonal. And when females experience a spike in their sex hormones, a brown coating forms over the cere. So their true cere color is always going to be that light white, purplish, sky blue, but on top of that you can see a thick coat forms over it, masking the true cere color. Is temporary. It fades when her hormones have settled. Over here we have a 6 weeks old male with very uniform pink colored cere. You can see some darkened sides around the beak, but those are the melanin you'll see in chicks, and that is going to fade. But overall, the color on the cere is very uniform pink. You don't see a stark contrast like you would see in a female. It's very smooth, very uniform pink, even tone throughout. Here we have a juvenile male. He's got a slightly purple cere that's about to turn blue, so you can see a color that's transitional between pink and purple and blue. It's somewhere in between. I don't know the exact name of the color. I'm not an artist, but that is a male with a very uniformly colored cere. And this is an older male. He's a little over a year old, and his cere is a mix of sky blue around the nostrils with darker blue underneath, making that contrast. He's not hormonal yet. You can see his molting. They're generally not hormonal when they're molting. When they're hormonal, the cere will darken up a little and have a more bluish shine to it. Over here we have a mature hormonal male with a shine to his blue. You can see that the blue is much richer and deeper. And over here we have a mature recessive pied male. Recessive pied males, they will retain their juvenile pink cere for life. When they're hormonal, the purple pink turns a little shiny, a little darker, but they will retain the pink for life. It's a very uniform pink color. The same you will see in young males. And here's a side-by-side comparison of a male's blue and a female's blue when they're not hormonal. You can see that the female has a sky blue color with chalky white texture, and the male is more darker blue. Yes, you see, both sexes can have the blue colored cere, just not the males. Now, what about the birds that are under 6 weeks old? A lot of people tend to assume that you cannot tell the sexes apart when they're that young. But that is also wrong. I've been raising budgies for over 2 decades in triple-digit numbers. As an aviculturist, I've had a lot of hands-on experience, applied, observational, academic, and I'm going to tell you, you can't tell the sexes of budgerigars from the day they hatch. Now, how I can do it? This is not something I cannot explain in a video, nor can I show you with photographs. And the reason is, the cere colors of tiny little budgies are so sensitive to light. Digital cameras will not capture the texture, the appearance very accurately. As a photographer, I use a high-end DSLR camera, and even with that, it is extremely difficult to reproduce the exact coloration of their ceres in a digital image. That is something you can easily tell with enough experience when you're looking at the chick in person. But male budgies, they generally will hatch with a very shiny pink sheen around the nostrils. Female budgies will hatch with a very pale, translucent colored cere. And by the time they're 2 weeks old, their eyes have started to open, The distinct coloration of their ceres will make it really easy to tell the males and females apart if you're experienced with handling baby budgies regularly. If you're someone who has not seen baby budgies before or hasn't worked with them a long time, well, this video is not going to be helpful because you really need to watch these birds grow and establish a pattern to recognize the difference. As the males grow older, their ceres will turn overall purple, a little pink, sometimes very opaque white, whereas the females will retain a very dull white and very light or very dull purple appearance. And by the time they're 2.5 weeks old, females are going to have some multicoloration on their cere, maybe a little hint of white, maybe a little hint of light purple, along with a darker, dull purple color, and males will have a more uniform, even tone of pink throughout. Another issue we run with chicks is that a lot of them will have melanin hyperpigmentation. What that means is their beak, their cere will be very dark colored, maybe black. There will be spread of black splotches over the cere, and the beak will be completely black. That fades with time, but the darkening of that over the cere will interfere with how you are able to observe the changes. So that can make things a little bit tricky, but with enough observational experience, you should be able to tell the males and the females apart. The cere of a female, it's kind of multicolored. It's got pale pink around the nostrils with a little slightly darker purple around it. It's not a uniform color. You can see a little texture around there. It's pretty light. That's how you know it's a female. The same thing going on with this female. Got some white colored areas around the nostrils and a little darkish purple below. It's a textured appearance. Over here we've got a male, very uniform pink. It's pretty monocolor. It's very uniform, very smooth, not much texture going on. Kind of flares up in sunlight. It's a very bright colored pink, unlike the darker purplish colors you see in females. Ceres side by side. On the left you have a male, very flush, uniform, solid pink. And the female, you've got a multicolored cere with the areas around the nostrils being paler and a duller purple, whereas the male has a much brighter pink. Yeah, I mean the ceres, while they may look similar, they're very distinct colors. And that's how you can tell the males and the females apart when they're about 4 weeks of age. It's a male, very flush pink. Female, very dull pink with pale color around the nostrils. Then why do people say that you cannot tell the sexes apart until they're fully mature? Well, the simple answer is they really don't know how to do it. All they've done is some small research online and have heard other people say the same thing. Hey, I cannot tell the sexes apart, so you cannot tell the sexes apart. More of a, if I can't do it, no one can do it situation, and that is the wrong way of going about it. Some other misconceptions I've heard of are males have blue feet, females have pink feet. Guys, these are not people. Birds don't care for pink or blue. That's a totally human construct. Another fun one I've heard is that budgies, they choose their own sex when they've matured, or they can change their sex because their ceres look different from what the people have expected, and instead of looking inward and assuming that, hey, I've made a mistake, they're going to say, well, I did not make a mistake, the birds have changed their sex. That's not biology, guys. So yeah, blue for boys, pink for girls. If you go with that theory, most of the time you're going to be wrong. A very uniform pink colored cere like this, it's usually going to be a male, almost exclusively. Multicolored texture appearance, very dull purple, is something you would see in a female. And older females will have blue colored cere. It's just going to be very pale blue with a lot of white on it. Whereas males will have a very rich, even tone of blue throughout the cere. It's very distinct.